Thanks for purchasing an electric fat bike with us. I'm going to walk you through an unboxing and assembly of this particular Boar 750 watt camo Boar. In the mail, you're going to receive 3 boxes. The main bike box, you're going to receive a battery and a separate box, as well as this big box that contains your front rack. You'll need some very basic tools to assemble this bike. You'll need just a simple box cutter, an 8mm wrench, 15mm open wrench, and 4mm and a 5mm Allen keys. We're going to start by opening up the main bike box just by using your box cutter. Okay, and I'm going to show you some of the things that are included in the box. First, we're going to remove the rear rack that comes in the box and set it aside. We'll assemble it last on the bike. And then it's just, carefully removing all of the wrapping in around the bike. And then I'm going to just lay the bike down in the box. You're going to receive certain things. A seat. I'm going to put this down here. Full air. There's a bunch of shrink wrap on the bike. I'm just going to go ahead and start removing it. To continue with the assembly of the bike, I'm going to go ahead and use my bike stand. You don't have to have one to assemble. You can still assemble on the ground as it is, but I'm going to use it because I have one. Once you get rid of all the bubble wrap on the frame, and now you have the entire bike exposed, the first thing I'm going to do is assemble the front wheel. Now to do that, on this particular through axle bike, all I have to do is I'm going to have to undo the axle, just counterclockwise, and then the axle will come right out. Okay, I'm going to take the bike, the front wheel, remove the protection on the front this. Okay, now the disc side goes where the brake caliper is, so when you're putting it in, make sure that the disc goes in between the calipers here. So you just grab it like this, you'll lift it up, and then you're going to grab the axle, and then you're just going to put it right through the frame, front hub, just like that, and then just start screwing it in. And you'll notice it's going to start catching on the other side. What's important here that you don't over tighten this through axle. So what I normally do is I start going and screwing it in, and as soon as I start feeling that it's building up tension, I normally leave the lever facing down and then I clamp it right up. So I just grab it and I just clamp it down. Next, we're going to assemble the handlebar assembly onto the stem. And to do that, you'll need a 4mm Allen key. When you look at the handlebars, all the wiring, the brake cables, the derailleur cables are already wired for you. And when you're attaching the handlebar onto the stem, it's important to make sure that this one cable, which is the derailleur cable, stays on the drive side of the bike. So this particular cable goes down and it is on the right hand side of the bike, not on the opposite side. I'm going to take off these 4 bolts that are holding this plate together. I'm going to take them off. They're just hand tight right now. I'm going to take them off. Then I'm going to take my handlebar, make sure again that the shifter cable is on the right hand side of the bike. I'm going to line everything together like this, and then I'm going to take the plate back, and then I'm going to start reattaching those 4 bolts. And I'm going to do this by hand first, make sure that I am in the threads. Okay, before you tighten these 4 bolts, it's important that you align the handlebar first. And the way I do it normally, you'll see the rise. You want the rise to face up. Once you see that it is aligned properly, then you can go ahead and start tightening up those 4 bolts. When you're tightening these bolts, what you want to make sure is that you're tightening them all evenly. So before cranking on one bolt, what I normally do is I go and I hand tighten them all In the bike box, you're gonna receive several other items. You're gonna get your saddle with the seat post. You're gonna get a charger, which comes in the bike as well. This is your e-bike charger. And lastly, this little accessory box, which includes your pedals, reflectors for front and back, as well as a manual that comes with the bike. In order to assemble your saddle, all you have to do is open up the clamp on the clamp here, and then just grab your seat, and it will go right in. And drop it to your desired height, and clamp it back down. Next, we're going to assemble the pedals, and remember that the non-drive side of the bike is a reverse threaded pedal. So in the reverse threaded pedal has been clearly marked from the normal thread with all these ribs in here. So we're going to take the drive side pedal first, which is the smooth one, and then we're going to install it on the bike. And on the drive side, it's just a normal righty-tighty. So we're just gonna go right, and we're gonna assemble them like this. Then we're gonna grab our 15 mil wrench, and we're just gonna tighten it. Done. The left pedal spindle is reverse threaded. So in order to attach it, we're gonna have to go counterclockwise to tighten it. And then we're gonna use our 15 mil wrench to completely attach it. And it's on. Next, we're gonna assemble the rear rack. You'll notice that the rack has two rods that come with it. In order to attach the rack, first thing what we're gonna do is we're gonna start by removing these four bolts, two on each side, that are rack attachments. So first, I'm going to use my 8mm wrench, and I'm going to start taking these off. Yeah. Next, we're going to take this, we're going to slide it down. What we're going to do, we're going to use the first hole, and we're going to align it together with that, and then we're going to start screwing in our bolts right through into that thread, just like that, aligning it, and we're going to start putting it through. Once I start this bolt, I'm going to just loosely attach it, not tighten it just yet, and then I'm going to move on to the other side. I'm going to repeat the process on the opposite side and do the same. I'm just going to loosely attach that bolt. Okay, I'm going to loosely attach it, and then I'm going to move on to these stays. I'm going to take these and start attaching it right to the frame. Again, I'm going to do this just loosely for now. I'm not going to tighten them hard. I'm going to leave them loose, and then I'm going to move on to the opposite side. Now that I have all four bolts attached, I'm going to start tightening them up. You'll notice that the rear rack has adjustability here. So what I do is, you want to make sure that this is as horizontal as possible. So I leave it here, and then I'm going to use a 10 mil, and I'm going to tighten the nut on the inside. I'm going to repeat it on the opposite side. Now that we have the rear rack attached, we're going to go ahead and assemble the front rack, which comes in its own separate box. So same thing here, before we attach this, what we want to make sure, what we want to do is we want to remove these bolts on each side, 4 bolts. And once we assemble them, we're gonna put these bolts through these eyelets, and that's how the rack's gonna sit. So again, first, let's go ahead and remove these. Okay, so what's important now is when you're putting on this front rack and you're putting all those bolts, that you put them in one by one and you hand tighten them first before you crank on one. So you align the eyelets with the bolt, and then you just give it a little. You want to start those threads going, and then move on to the next one. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that first before I start cranking on these. Now that I have all these 4 bolts started, I can now go ahead and start tightening these up. I could use just an open wrench, 8 mil, or I could use a socket. A socket is a little faster, so I'm just gonna use a socket on my part. Just gonna grab these and I'm just gonna start hand tighten them. I'm not gonna go crazy on them yet. I'm just gonna go one by one and start tightening these up. Gonna move on to the other side, do the same thing. I'm gonna do one by one. Top one. Done. Now that we have the racks installed, we can go ahead and install the battery. The battery comes in its own separate box. Just open it up, you'll find the battery. Let's just open it up. There you go. In order to install the battery, what you want to do is you want to put the bottom in first, the bottom end, and then you're going to take the front end and you're just going to put it on. That's how you assemble the bike. In order to take it off, you do need the key. Now the bike is pretty much assembled. The last piece that's left is making sure that your handlebars are nicely aligned with the front tire. In order to do that, I'm going to have to drop the bike, make sure that is aligned, tighten these bolts right on the stem, and we're good to start riding this bike. Now that I have my stem aligned with my tire, I can go ahead and tighten these bolts. With using a 5mm Allen key, I can just go ahead and start tightening these bolts. This completes the assembly of our bike today, but there's still a couple more things that I'd like you to walk you through before you get on the bike and start riding. I want to make sure that you take the battery and you leave it overnight for a 6 to 8 hour charge. I want to make sure that the tires have the right pressure for you, and what the air pressure, right air pressure is. I normally ride with 20 psi in my tires. If I'm going over some of the bumpy terrain and loose sand and snow, I'll probably drop it down to 14 psi. But I would check the tire pressure. I would make sure that the handle grips are properly aligned for your riding style. Some people like brake levers up, some people like brake levers down. But other than that, the bike is fully pre-assembled now and you can go ahead and start enjoying the bike. Thank you.